Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guests, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges, and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. I'm delighted to be joined once more today by Simon Nichols, CEO and founder at Thrive. Welcome again, Simon.
Thank you so much for having me back, Craig. I genuinely excited every time I come on these.
Cool. It's always a pleasure to have a chat with you, especially at this time of the morning too. So in today's mental health focused episode, we're going to be discussing how we can use positive mental health practices to thrive at work. A little tenuous link there. See what we did?
So,
And just before we get into that, quick question for you. Would you rather spend 10 minutes in a sauna or in an ice bath?
sauna.
Me too.
I admire the virtues of ice baths, ice showers are incredible. I should be doing it. I should have icy showers, especially where, when we're talking about neurodiverse differences, they've been really proven to help support people, give them maybe just calm the brain down. I don't know the full scientific insights of cold showers on ADHD, but I know that it's really good. And Wim Hof method, I've got lots of friends that do it, but I am such a scaredy cat of cold stuff. I don't like getting in the sea when it's cold. I don't like getting in the swimming pools when it's cold. So for me, saunas is always going to be the way to go because it's nice and warm, and I like warm.
Cool. That's so good because I'm like that. But what I do like though is after 10 minutes in a sauna, going into the cold plunge pool. That I like.
Yes.
That bit of shock, and you know it's safe, and you can get back out again. And like you say, an ex colleague and a friend of mine, a lady called Åsa Johnson, who was the CEO of the Swedish user group. She is into cold water swimming, and
Ooh.
there's videos that she puts on social media in the winter where they break the ice in the lake near their house and then get in for a little swim and then come back out again. Yep, not for me.
No, I used to do a lot of scuba diving, and scuba diving in the UK typically means in the winter breaking some ice. But you are in a dry suit. You've got a pair of jeans on, you've got a jumper on, you've got a t-shirt on underneath these dry suits, and that is the only acceptable way that I will get into some water that needs some ice breaking on top of it.
Yep. But hats off to everybody that does, and I'm sure
Oh yes.
there's lots of positive benefits to it. Which leads us on to our subject. And, we've discussed in the past, Simon, how kind of bad mental health can negatively affect all facets of our lives. But also on the flip side of that, what we'd like to look at is how can people use positive mental health practices to boost capabilities at work? So just to kick us off, could you just share with us, how some areas where positive mental health practices can impact things like job satisfaction, employee engagement, improved communication, and even drive innovation, perhaps? Simon?
Well, let's take this back to the very bare nuggets, I guess, of positivity. And everyone who's probably been on a course with me has heard me use this statistic. Positivity increases productivity 33%. It's a very old stat, and it sort of came around by lots of studies of individuals, employees, as to what they do at work, how they do it, and I often have to put a caveat in at that point that productivity isn't about working harder. Productivity isn't about making 33% more widgets. When you think of productivity, and from there you talked about all the great things there, the improved communication, the engagement, the satisfaction, but also the innovation. People are going to work, and I think this is where we always go down this route here. People are going to work differently. And that's what you want in your workforce. You want them to work differently. You want everybody to work differently, potentially, if your workforce is already going down a particular route because maybe there might be a reduction in force, maybe there's, teams are not gelling together, maybe there's this move back into the office environment as well. So what you've got to think about when we think about productivity is we're thinking about the outputs of individuals. And it's so important to remember. I know we've gone down the route before of talking about human resources. It sounds so non-human sometimes, even when we talk about HR. But what we're talking about is our people. We're talking about the very lifeblood of our organisation. So we want them to be, and let's use the word that we are looking around here for positive, we want them to be happy. We want them to come in and do something different, rather than come in and do the same old thing, enter the data into the spreadsheet, go for a cup of coffee at 10 a.m. We want them to do and think and act differently. But ultimately what we want them to do is be happy. And when you think about positivity, what we're really trying to strive for is I want to go in today to do my job, to do the best I can do at my job, and to leave happy. And I also want to leave on time, but maybe we'll talk about the time restrictions that people put in a bit later.
Thank you. And from that perspective then, obviously happiness came out quite powerfully there in what you were saying. And what positive mental health practices can support employees in their jobs? Maybe even to boost confidence, perhaps.
So I think this could be summed up in two words: engagement and communication. How engaged are your employees with the way that the business is going? And we have to remember, even small businesses, large business, there's an end goal. This is not just about making shareholders, richer. In some companies that might be the case, but for the most part, it's about getting a product or an end consumable or service to a customer that's the best that you can make it. So when we think about that confidence, what does an employee need? What does your people need? They need accurate information. They need communication. They need to be made aware of everything that's going on. Maybe not everything, if there's sort of top secret talks going on. But why is there a reduction in workforce? Why is half the team being made redundant? Because normally we just get cost saving. Why have the costs got to that point? And we're not talking about opening up the financial kimono, but it's always more. We use the term, don't we? You're just a number on a spreadsheet. It's always more than that. We need to save money in this particular department because it's not performing well. And why is it not performing well? Well, because we haven't invested time and effort into our staff. Oh, maybe. So, we need to balance this boost almost, or this positive mental health, by having a continual open communication channel with everyone within the organisation. And the more communicated people feel, the more engaged they will feel, and they'll do something different. They'll act differently. If they're part of something, you think about John Lewis got it really good, didn't they? They call their team members partners because they want you to be part of something. The more you bring your staff in, the more able they're going to be able to be to say, I want this to work, I want this to be successful. And then you said about confidence there. Once we've got, I guess, the employee satisfaction in place, then we can start building their confidence.
Thank you. And can you share perhaps some mental health practices you personally use to help you perform better at work? I'm assuming you do perform really well, of course.
There's rumours, Craig, vicious rumours. I'd like, actually, that's a great question, but I'd like to answer it in two ways, if I may, because there's things I do for my team as well, I hope, that I think makes them feel positive. But yes, the things that I do for me is I need to be in an environment where I feel happy. And we're recording this in my home office. I know you're in your office up there in Stockton-on-Tees, but in my home office, it's a bit cluttered at the moment. And that is actually impinging on my well-being, because I've got loads of stuff on my desk, and normally I get up in the morning and I clear my desk, and because actually having that nice clear desk really gives me a nice clear head. But I haven't managed to do it because it's been a busy weekend, and my study is a typical dumping ground at the weekend. So what I need to do, and what I do occasionally, I'm looking around now actually, you might hear it in my voice, is I get a big box. I get a big box and I scoop everything off my desk, so that I've got almost nothing in my eye line. And that really gives me a positive feeling, because my mind's cluttered enough, trying to get on with the day-to-day workings of life. But having an uncluttered eye line, that really helps support me. And so that's how I sort of start off. And of course a cup of coffee. That's always a very important one for me to kickstart the day. But when I think about my team and supporting them, and I go straight back to communication. So we have weekly meetings, we have a wonderful active Slack channel. I just try and give as much information. I have been accused of oversharing, and people have sort of said, well, maybe we didn't need to know that. But I think, well, do you know what? We do, because if I want you to pull the oars as hard as I'm rowing, I want us all to go in the same direction. And I want you to feel that you know exactly what's going on and where we're going next and what's happening. And yeah, sometimes it's difficult, and maybe there is a bit too much information. But as I say, I think having that communication channel as open as possible, people know exactly where they are and they know exactly what they want to do. And we can maybe talk about job role definition later, because that really gives people an air of confidence and positivity that they can do something within their role that will help the business move forward.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I'd just like to go back a little, perhaps, and just have a little conversation around the happiness and being happy element that you brought out. And I think it was the Dalai Lama that said the purpose of our lives is to be happy. And, that's right. And I've mentioned it before when we've had discussions about, because it always fascinated me, actually. It's the Harvard Business School study. And, it's the longest ever study, and they've done it for over 100 years, I believe now, or something like that, where they studied people to try and understand what is the root of happiness, what makes people happy, and what drives happiness, and what has come out from that. And I've read the updates on an annual basis, and it still comes down to the one thing, and that's relationships and the benefits of positive relationships and the relationships that you have in your life. So back to that, linking that happiness to relationships, to a place of work, because place, let's not focus on that, because we have remoteness now, and like you said, you've got a Slack channel. There's ways to communicate and engage with people other than in a set place. But if you think about a team working together, you were with those people for the bulk of your working day during a working day. And in that, the power of your relationships has ultimately got to have a massive effect on your happiness.
Totally. And we actually, for a couple of local schools, we did a couple of webinars, and maybe this is a future SAP user group webinar, actually thinking about it. And it's actually called The Power of Happiness. And and we use two terms when we're delivering that. And the first term is mood hoover. And I love the connotations with this, because we probably all have this, an individual within the workplace, whether that's remote or otherwise, that as soon as that individual comes in, there's a lowering of the atmosphere. And that individual, and they will have lots of stuff going on in their life, okay? And now we're not here to pick out why this individual may be a mood hoover, but it's about the engagement level of that individual. And you can start to see the toxicity within those relationships when someone just comes in and all they've got to talk about is the bad news, the bad things, the negativity that's in their life. And, that might be their only outlet of getting that information out. So we've got to be a little bit cognizant that, it's an okay thing to do. But if that person is doing it continually all the time, we might be need to, well, what can we do as an organisation to address that individual? Because it's not just one employee that's saying it, it's like 5, 10 employees, let's choose a name, Dave, Sandra, whatever that looks like, is always, why are they? Why are they so down on a company? Why are they so down? Should we be looking at something? And as a manager of that individual, we should be really exploring how we can help support them. But the other thing that we actually and this comes as a bit of a shock, and we do hope that most of the the SAP user group do listen to these podcasts as well. But I'm about to give a little bit of news here. It's not Craig's mission. It's not Craig's overriding. He doesn't make you happy. Okay, it's also for the whole of the rest of the SAP user group coming
My
into.
wife would also say that.
It's not Craig's job. Craig's job is to enable you to be the best, to be resilient, to get all the support you can need. But it's not Craig's job to make you happy. And put this out to every CEO, every senior manager, every manager, because you get individuals, employees coming in and I don't like my job, and it's all insert manager's fault. Now we do know we have some bad managers. That's absolutely fine, but we come in and we become reliant on it's the companies. They need to make me happy, and unfortunately, that's not the case because you have an obligation on yourself to put in as many measures, as many coping strategies, resilience, let's call it, to be happy. And you do that by experience or by knowledge or by information, because we believe that we have access to this pool of happiness. I love it, the pool of happiness. And we get to it by remembering really cool things, listening to amazing, inspirational people, and surrounding us, going back to your original thing, with really positive relationships. So I guess my roundabout way of answering this question is recognize the mood hoovers. Do something about it, either as an organisation. And if you can't, remove yourself from that relationship. Now, I know that's very easy for me to say and maybe difficult in real life, but you can instead of having to listen all the time, just say, I'm really sorry, I'm a bit busy at the moment. I'll come back to you in a little while. And actually then you don't come back to that person. I'm not saying leave them alone. Please check in, because there is something going on with their lives, obviously. But it's about not having to accept that toxic information that's coming in all the time.
Thank you.
We know our community, but we don't know yours yet. Why not share the benefits of your UK&I Sub membership with those who don't know about us? The UK&I Sub referral scheme rewards you for helping to grow and develop our community. You can check out the link in the description to find out more about how you can get involved. Terms and conditions apply. We hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast.
And just on that resilience element there you touched on, and completely get that it's not the employer's job, not the manager's job or whatever to make you happy. But how perhaps could we as employers, so to speak, help employees, help build resilience, perhaps bringing in some mental health practices to help them cope with negativity and hopefully help make them more resilient?
So it's very easy at this point to say, oh, let's give them some training. And we all love training, but training on its own is a really bad tactic. Okay, you've got to have a reason for training. And I had an experience a couple of months ago, and an organisation wanted some training, and I had to ask them why. Why do you want some training? Well, we've had the staff feedback, and they're not happy. The workload's too heavy, so we thought we'd give them some training. And I was like, well, what training do you need? Just training to make them happier. And it's like it's a wonderful notion, okay, because you've recognized, you've seen something, but it's not the right way to approach it. What we need to do is we need to understand why that workforce is in that position in the first place. And we get that from information. We get that from employee surveys. We get that from managers having one-to-ones. You know, why is the organization feeling like this way? Why do we need some level of intervention? Because that's what we're doing here. We're intervening in order for those employees to feel, here we go, included, wanted, part of something. So the way that we build resilience is, because typically we build resilience by having to experience things that what doesn't hurt us doesn't kill us or something. But when we have these experiences, we build up this level of resilience. So what we're trying to do here is, in order to build up a level of resilience with our employees, why don't we try giving them positive experiences rather than the negative experiences? Oh, this is my third redundancy or my fourth redundancy. I'm getting really good at this now. Why don't we put measures in place that actually start to build, as you said, the confidence, build their self-esteem, their self-worth. And we do that, again, by inclusion, engagement, and communication. So we've got to be thinking right at the heart of everything that we're doing on every day. Is my communication clear? Am I engaging my workforce? And am I helping them to build up that level of resilience? Because if I've got a well communicated to, a fully inclusive, they can be who they are themselves, and I actually communicate regularly, I will start to build that resilience naturally.
Thank you. And so resilience, I'm going to move maybe onto confidence now, if I may. And I suppose there is a fear of failure in many facets of life, including work. How can we build, I suppose, a safe space for our employees so that we overcome that fear of failure, or help them perhaps overcome that?
It's all about inclusivity, isn't it? It's all about the ability to let that person, to create a safe space that allows that person to feel safe to fail. I probably fail 10 times a day. I will forget to do something, I'll do something wrong, but what I do is, at that point that I failed, I then learn. But I fail in a space, or I surrounded myself with organisations and partners and team members that allow me to fail, allow me to say, I'm really sorry I didn't get that email to you on time. I'm really sorry I didn't attend the meeting. And it's not that I set out to miss meetings and not send emails every day, but just the level of life that goes on. Both, let's think of the iceberg. When we come into the office, all you can see poking out of the top is this little iceberg, and there's this whole big iceberg underneath the water, and that's called the rest of our life. Okay, but how much of that iceberg am I willing to share? And that's about the inclusion aspect. Can I share some of the things that's going on in my personal life? And a lot of people are scared to bring that personal life into the workplace, to be maybe accused of being a mood hoover. But sometimes we just need to get out what's going on in our lives. And when you think about that confidence boosting element, it's having the confidence to know that if you try something and it doesn't work, you're going to be supported. So when we think about that, if you remember the old team building exercises, Craig, when you're standing behind someone, you have to fall backwards. I hate them. I never really, but because what we're building is trust. And that's really where inclusion comes in. Do I trust you as an organization to have my back? Do I trust you as a manager that you're going to support me if I tell you about my neurodiverse difference, if I tell you about my mental ill health, if I tell you about my family problems? Because the more you let me fail in the workplace, the more confident I will get. Because I had a great idea. You listened to it. We even tried to implement it, but it wasn't quite right. That's absolutely fine. Let's go back. Let's try again. And you hear Simon Sinek talking about this all the time. The only way to be better at something is to be bad at it for a long time, so that you keep just trying just a little bit more. And again, let's talk about inclusivity. Let's talk about communication. Let's talk about positive engagement. That's how you build people's confidence up. You let them fail, and you catch them, and then you tell them why you think they may have failed. It's a very hard thing for an organisation to admit to, or we've got employees failing, but they're failing in a good way. They're failing in a positive way, and you're there supporting them.
Thank you. Moving on to probably a related subject area, I suppose, at the moment, and that's stressful situations, perhaps. And I suppose relating that to a major element of what we do in our community, and that is giving presentations. And, you know, we've touched on this previously, you and I, in other conversations. But, you know, what perhaps steps can professionals take to prepare for stressful situations, such as getting on stage, delivering a presentation?
Well, I think the first thing that we should look at there is that, you know, presentations are not for everyone, okay? And we sometimes, you know, managers or team members, you know, we should be given, I guess, the opportunity to say no. You know, we should be given the opportunity to say, actually, do you know what, this isn't for me. And again, being that inclusive employer gives you that, well, you need to go and do this presentation because you're a senior manager. I'm a senior manager because I'm good at supporting people. I don't necessarily have to be good at presenting or being there, you know. So it's important to know that you can escape. You know, you don't have to do that presentation. But obviously, if there is a facet of your job that means that you have to go and deliver this in team meetings or something, then you need to put in those steps, those resilient steps that are going to allow you to succeed. Now, this isn't necessarily thinking of everyone naked in the room when you're delivering your presentation, but it's about getting yourself in a positive mental state that whatever you're going to deliver is going to be greeted warmly. And that goes back to that engagement and that failure to fail, okay? Because all you're trying to do at that point is give some information to someone in a format that is slightly different than what you normally do, which is send long emails. So you're trying to be engaging, you're vibrant, you're trying to give a lot of information, and for the most part, people think about their content more than their delivery. I've got to get this learning outcome across. I've got to get this element of information outcome. Well, why don't we do this in two different ways? Why don't we do this in a way whereby we can give those nuggets of information to someone? So we do maybe a brief of the information that we're going to be talking about in a PowerPoint presentation or whatever that looks like, and we send that out to the delegates first of all. So if you feel that you've missed a little bit of information, it's not a problem because everyone's got it. Everyone's got it in a different format, and you can then concentrate on your delivery, which is the thing that most people get really worried about. And when we go back to that negative side of things, Craig, you know, negativity, people are drawn to negativity 5 times more than they're drawn to positivity. So you can go up there, you can give the presentation of your life, and you'll come away, and all the people will think about is, oh, my shoes are a bit dirty, because you go into that mostly negative thought. So what we try and do when we're sort of talking to people about confidence and self-esteem is to go, well, just go out there, give it your best. And you know what? Your best is good enough. And nobody's going to come away from that thinking your shoes were dirty because they're going to be enthralled by the information that you're giving them. And that's really all you can do. And again, be in that position where don't be afraid to fail.
Thank you. And just looking at that, you know, building up resilience we've talked about, happiness we've talked about, preparing yourself for situations, and just maybe turning now to habits and building up habits that can help positively. You mentioned earlier your happy space, your office is when you've got a clean desk and when it's not clean. So for instance, if I reflect back on today, you know, we were set to record this 8:30 this morning. I was off last week on holiday, so coming back, I knew I needed to be in early and I needed to be prepared. I also needed to think about, okay, what's happened in the past week that I need to catch up on before coming into the office. So for my preparation, and you know, it's not for everybody, but these are the habits that kind of I build up. So last night I spent an hour or so just checking back through emails, preparing myself a to-do list I needed to start ticking off when I got in this morning. I set my alarm early, so I got up at 5 this morning, because my thing that makes me happy is getting outside. So first thing on the morning, up, espresso, I got on my bike, I did 30 minutes cycling, did about 7.5 miles, came back, showered, breakfast, office. In the office for 7:45 to prepare, ready for our discussion. That set me up for the day in a positive way. That's me. That's personal. As I said, it's not for everybody. So what habits can perhaps people build to support themselves on a day-to-day?
Well, I think you've perfectly described habit stacking there. Habit stacking is a really positive way that you can approach each day. Because what did you talk about there? You talked about getting up early. You talked about an espresso. You talked about getting on your bike. You talked about coming back, showering. You talked then you're prepared. So you've got these 5 habits that you've built into your lifestyle. And as you say, it may not be for everyone. Not everyone likes to go on a bike, but you don't have to do half an hour on a bike. You could do half an hour walking. But what you've done there is you've got up. Okay, that's a struggle for a lot of people anyway. But you've got up. You've fueled your body. Albeit with some caffeine, but I'm sure you had a breakfast bar as well. You've then done your exercise. You've got outside. You've got some vitamin D. You've boosted your oxytocin levels. You've boosted your dopamine because you completed a task. You've gone and done your bike. You've then come back in. You've had a lovely shower. You've refreshed yourself. You've calmed yourself, and all of this, ladies and gentlemen, and he still gets in the office at 7:45. Now, again, Craig's a CEO. Just because CEOs get in at 7:45 doesn't mean you need to as well. But again, that's your positive habit stacking. If I do this, if you miss one of those because you get up late or your coffee machine isn't working or the bike's got a puncture, there will be a feeling of something's gone a bit wrong today, and you might get off on that wrong foot. So when we think about habit stacking, what we're really trying to do is to put in place all of these really good habits that will actually allow us to thrive. There we go, I've done it again, as we go through the day. So I think it's important for you to think, what do you need to do? My habit stacking is very simple. I get up and I make the bed. And you might think, oh, that's a weird one to do, but making a bed is important for me. And it's not that my wife doesn't make the bed either, but we need to make sure that the bedroom is in a really nice looking state. So we try and put everything away. We try and that's then when we come downstairs and prepare for the day. But for me, I haven't got that. We go for a dog walk, but it's at different times. So I haven't necessarily got that rigidity of habit stacking, but I do try and do things in a certain order. And I think that's really important for individuals that are struggling. Maybe they've started a new job, maybe they've started a new role, and they feel like they're floundering, they feel like they're treading water. Try and build out a pattern of things that you need to do each day, especially if you're a new manager. I would say the most important thing in your life are your people. Okay, you will have a day job alongside it, but if you've got a small enough team, maybe 10, 15 people, nothing wrong with a little WhatsApp message or a little text message in the morning. How's everyone doing this morning? I went out on my bike. I went out and I did a walk. What did you do to make yourself feel better this morning? Just little check-ins are so important. And you might think, I haven't got time to do that. You probably have. Okay, and it might be a 1-minute message, but it's an important message to just show the team that you're thinking about them. And if you start to build that into your habit, it doesn't need to be every day, but it's maybe, my manager really cares about me. He checks or checks in on me on a Monday, and they check in with me on a Friday. And I think just that power of connection, and it goes back to what you said, that relationship element. I've got a relationship where someone actually cares about me. And if that is then part of your habit, then your employees, your team members will start to see that as well. And when they miss that, they'll reach out to you. And they say, I didn't get my Friday well good message this morning. Are you okay, Craig? And then you come back, I was just a bit difficult going this morning. And then you have that two-way communication. Because I think that's the problem, is that a lot of managers, and let's go back to the stress that we talked about, they don't confide in their employees that they're stressed as well. They just sort of take it all on the chin and hope that it's all going to get better tomorrow. But we need a two-way communication.
Thank you very much. We've covered quite a bit in this conversation, and hopefully there's been some little nuggets that people can take away to, improve and make themselves happier, if you like. And as we come to a close now, Simon, is there anything perhaps we haven't touched on, or anything else you'd like to share?
I just think we go back to that pool of happiness. Okay, if things are not going right for you at the moment, one of my favourite sayings is, "It'll be all right in the end," and if it's not all right, it's not the end. And I know that can sound very contrite and very sort of, I'm struggling, I'm suffering, whatever that might be going on in someone's lives. It will get better, but you've got to reflect on some of the times when you were happier, because that's how, we talk about memories and we talk about building a memory bank. And if you struggle with that because your memory isn't as great as it is, look at the photographs, write a journal, look at things. I found an old birdwatching book. I used to write a lot of notes before all this technology malarkey came into place. And it was while I was we're in readiness for our house move a little bit later this year, we've been decluttering. And I found this book and I opened it up and it instantly transported me back to 2002. It's like a time machine. And I instantly remembered where I was at that time. And it gave me a really happy thought. It's like, I remember that, and I saw that particular bird. And even now, I'm getting a little bit goosebumpily because goosepimply. I'm remembering a happy time, and that's the thing, is that we feel that the only time we can truly have happiness is right now, right here. But our bodies need to be stabilized. We can't always be happy. We can't always be sad, but we can remember when we were happy. And I think that's the important thing. We need to draw on this pool of happiness, this pool of resilience to start to give us a coping strategy whereby we can get on in the day. So that would be my lasting thought to people, is remember the happy times and get the photographs out, get the memory books, get the journals out, and just think about a time when you were happy. And if it's not such a happy time at the moment, know that it will pass and there will be happier times in the future.
Thank you. On top of hopefully making people feel happier and giving people strategies to help them be happier if they need that, I think you've also invented a new word. So, what more could we ask from a discussion? So, Simon, thank you. Thank you again for your time, your insights, and sharing them with our audience. And thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. And until the next time, keep well, stay safe, and be happy.